that the Oscar-winning American actor Gene Hackman, along with his wife Betsy, have been found dead in their home in New Mexico.
You won't believe the shocking truth behind Gene Hackman's passing. The Hollywood icon, famed for playing Popeye Doyle, was found dead with his wife under mysterious circumstances. What really happened? Stay tuned, because this is huge. A quiet life shattered. Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy were found dead in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Their ages were 95 and 63. People who knew them had doubts because they hadn't seen them in days, because they lived a quiet life away from LA. When neighbors and friends saw that the house wasn't being used, they got worried. It had been a while since they were seen, and the mail and newspapers were still outside. Because of this, someone called the police to find out about the welfare check. The house was locked from the inside when the police got there. From the outside, it didn't look like anyone had broken in or done anything odd. But the way it felt inside made them want to ask questions right away. Both Hackman and Arakawa were found inside, but in different rooms that were clearly apart. It was also their dog that was found dead. It looked like they had been dead for a while based on what was found. Even though it was a scary scene, there were no signs of an attack, trauma from the outside, or fighting. It looked like no one had broken in or done anything bad to the house. Something wasn't right, and everything that was valuable was safe. When the police asked the neighbors of the house what had happened, they didn't understand right away. The police had to look at a lot of different possible causes because they didn't have clear proof of damage or outside harm. There wasn't strong proof of a crime, but the event was strange enough to warrant more investigation. The police got a search warrant to look into the house more deeply because it wasn't clear what was going on with it. Prescription substances were spread out in different places, which was one of the main points. The police had to find out if these things had anything to do with the couple's deaths. To look for signs of poisoning or overdose, toxicology tests were decided to be sent out. Carbon monoxide poisoning was another idea that was put forward because their pet had also died. Researchers looked at samples of the air quality to see if there were any signs of leaks or being exposed to dangerous substances. The police said at this point that they didn't think there was any foul play, but they were still waiting for the medical exam results to find out the exact cause of death. To make sure there weren't any other causes, autopsies and more environmental and toxicological tests were ordered. The investigation wasn't over until the results were made public. At that point, they couldn't figure out what caused the death. Gene Hackman and his wife were found dead, but with no injuries. What really happened inside their home? The medical reports that left more questions. People were shocked when Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa died, but the first results didn't show much. Autopsies showed that there were no wounds or bruises on the outside of the body. There were no signs of a fight, there were no clear signs of damage on their bodies, which made the case even more difficult. Since there was no clear cause of death, investigators looked at toxicology studies. The goal of these tests is to find poisons, substances, or alcohol in the body. It takes time for the results to show up, so responses wouldn't appear right away. In addition, authorities require carbon monoxide testing, which is usually done when several people in the same house die suddenly. If there had been a gas leak, it could have poisoned them without them knowing. To make things even stranger, their dog disappeared too. This made people worry because animals often sense danger before people do. Most likely, the dog would have been the first to be hurt if there were poisons or a gas leak nearby. Its death next to them made them think that something strange had happened in the house. Even though they weren't sure, the police said they didn't think there was foul play. There were no signs that someone had broken into the house. There were no signs of an attack, and no valuables were taken. Because of the strange circumstances, however, investigators got a search warrant to do a full investigation. They had to rule out everything, even poisoning by accident or a medical emergency. Hackman was 95 years old, which is a lot longer than the average person lives. Even though he hadn't said much about his health, sudden medical events like a heart attack, stroke, or organ failure were possible. His age alone made him prone to sudden health problems. The fact that Betsy Arakawa died at age 63 was the bigger question. She was a lot younger and didn't seem to have any serious health problems. It makes a lot of sense for both of them to die around the same time. Had she also had a sudden health problem? On the other hand, could her death make Hackman react? One idea is that one of them passed first, leaving the other without any help. Hackman might not have been able to help Betsy if she had a sudden medical emergency and passed out. He might not have known or been willing to ask for help at age 95. The other possibility is also sad. In the event that Hackman died first, Betsy might have been hurt and died herself. Stress, shock, and the emotional toll could have caused a heart attack or other medical emergency. In either case, it's sad to think that one died while the other was still alive, and might not have known what to do or wasn't able to. Since there was no official cause of death, people made guesses. The theory that was used most often was carbon monoxide poisoning. If an appliance broke down or there was a leak in the house's heating system, it could have poisoned them over time. Carbon monoxide is invisible and has no smell, but it can be deadly at any time. Since the dog died too, this theory began to make sense. Prescription substances were part of yet another theory. Investigators found pills all over the house, which made them wonder what was going on. Was anyone taking medicine for a current illness? Was there a chance of a bad substance interaction or an accidental overdose? A fatal reaction would have happened if either Hackman or Betsy had taken the wrong dose by accident. The terrible truth was that their deaths were not reported for days. Gene Hackman had been living a quiet life since he quit Hollywood. In New Mexico, he stayed out of the public eye and rarely showed up in public. No one was regularly checking in on them because they didn't have any visitors every day and didn't talk to many people outside the group. Because they were alone, a lot of time had passed by the time they were found. The way their bodies were breaking down suggested that they had been dead for a while. The mystery grew stronger because it became harder to figure out exactly when or how they died because of the delay in discovery. Some people asked if a factor in the home environment had any significance. Could another danger that wasn't seen, being exposed to mold or a broken furnace, have played a part? The police had to rule out any possible dangers that could have been fatal to them. As the investigation went on, the public waited for the final medical reports. What really happened in that house? Was it a silent health crisis, a terrible accident, or something no one saw coming? Gene Hackman's life and career. This was not at all how Gene Hackman's life unfolded prior to rising as a Hollywood star. Trying to become well-known after being born in California in 1930, he broke the rules. Growing up, he struggled since his parents divorced when he was 11, and his father left the family. Early challenges molded his austere, no-nonsense approach of thinking. Had Hackman informed the Marines he was 16, he would have been too young to enlist. He spent almost 5 years working as a radio operator in China, then Hawaii. The military made him want more, in addition to imparting discipline. Following his service, he struggled with direction. He drove a truck, sold door-to-door, and even served as a dog catcher over years. Not even on his mind was acting until he was in his late 20s. While most Hollywood stars start young, Hackman didn't start out as a major actor until he was almost 30 years old. He registered in the renowned Pasadena Playhouse Acting School at the end of the 1950s. There, he ran across two future stars who were also considered as unusual leading men, Robert Duvall and Dustin Hoffman. The institution even declared Hackman was least likely to succeed. He used that instead of giving up to drive his work. His major break came from little roles on TV at the start of the 1960s. Still, Bonnie and Clyde in 1967 was the most significant turning point in his life. As Buck Barrow, Warren Beatty's brother, Hackman performed brilliantly in every scene he set. The film performed rather brilliantly, and it landed him a first Academy Award nomination. Hollywood suddenly became aware, and Gene Hackman was a star almost 40 years old. Before The French Connection in 1971, Hackman compiled an excellent list of films behind him. But That movie launched him into Hollywood stardom. Tough and compulsive, Detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle delivered one of the most intense performances in film history. Still, learning the part was challenging. The studio first wanted a more established name, and Hackman wasn't even sure he fit. Though he wasn't a method actor, he really entered the realm of actual detectives for this part. He mimicked NYPD moves and methods of operation during training with them. He even carried out actual police searches. Real traffic was used in the film to capture the well-known car chase sequence, in which Popeye Doyle maneuvers through New York. Traffic at maximum speed, so endangering real people. For a raw and hostile performance, Hackman took first place in the Academy Award for Best Actor. Though Hackman performed brilliantly in the part, he harbored conflicting emotions. Though he loved what Popeye Doyle accomplished for his career, he detested his mean and violent behavior. Later on, he claimed that he wasn't naturally aggressive. Thus, he found it difficult to perform such a strong character. Hackman became among the most sought-after stars in Hollywood once The French Connection debuted. He was not only a tough guy actor, he was also excellent in capturing subtleties in all kinds of roles, from heroes to bad guys. He gave outstanding performances in films including one of the biggest disaster movies of its time, The Poseidon Adventure, over the next 30 years. Then comes Superman, spanning 1978 to 1987. With both menace and humor, the great villain Lex Luthor portrayed was for his part as an FBI agent investigating crimes driven by racism in the 1988 film Mississippi Burning. Hackman also received an Oscar nomination. His second Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor came in 1992, from his post as the mean Sheriff Little Bill Daggett. Lastly, one of the best sports movies ever produced. Hackman portrayed an inspirational basketball coach in Hoosiers in 1986. Years ago, Hackman seemed to be accelerating a long distance. He continued giving moving performances even in his 60s and 70s. He stunned Hollywood, though, when he declared in 2004 that he was retiring at age 74. 2004 saw the release of his last film, Welcome to Mooseport, a humorous one. Though he never did, some believed he would return for one last major performance. What then? Later on, Hackman claimed to have simply stopped loving acting. Having spent years on stage had tired him, and he worried about his health as well. When he left Hollywood, he decided on a quiet life in New Mexico rather than basking in notoriety. He lived in peace, painted, and penned books for 20 years to come. As much as feasible, he avoided public events and interviews. While many stars strive for notoriety, Hackman was glad to be out of the limelight. Hackman left fame behind, living a private life. But his final years reveal a different story. Why Hackman disappeared from Hollywood. Gene Hackman was among the most esteemed Hollywood performers for decades. He possessed the talent, the honors, and the dignity of a real legend. But in 2004, at 74, he stunned the business by walking away from acting totally. Unlike many stars who gradually fade out, Hackman broke cleanly. He never did guest roles, cameos, or reunion specials. He relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he lived quietly with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, instead of staying in Los Angeles. Choosing peace over glory, he skipped Hollywood premiere and award ceremonies. Later on, he said he had no regrets. Acting had been his profession, but it was never his whole life. Fans caught rare public views of Hacker over the years. Every now and then, paparazzi captured him running errands or at gas stations. Headlines each time concentrated on his age. His once strong build had thinned, and his white hair made him hardly identifiable. But he seemed happy despite these developments. At last, he was living on his own terms after escaping the anarchy of Hollywood. Writing was one of his most ardent interests following retirement. Hackman developed into a successful novelist from a casual writer. He co-wrote 2 thrillers and 3 historical fiction volumes. Like Escape from Andersonville, his books demonstrated that his narrative ability transcended performance. Although he never promoted his books for public attention, critics hailed them and they sold well. Hackman found a means of remaining creative even in retirement. Meeting Betsy Arakawa in the 1980s, Hackman was already a big Hollywood star. Given her 32 years younger than his, some people started to wonder. Their bond, though, was indisputable. Hackman had lately split from his first wife, with whom he had 3 children. Often at the price of his personal life, he had spent years concentrating on his career. Meeting Betsy changed things. Something he had been lacking, she brought peace and stability into his life. They steered clear of Hollywood's social scene, unlike many celebrity couples. Betsy never sought the limelight, and they hardly went to events together. She was his best friend, not only his wife. Hackman discussed in interviews his great value of their relationship. Their age difference notwithstanding, their love endured more than 3 decades. Far from the cameras, they developed a quiet life in New Mexico. Whereas many Hollywood marriages fall apart under strain, theirs stayed strong. They lived modestly, savoring time away from the business, home-cooked food, and bike rides. Betsy never dreamed of fame. Hackman never pursued it either. Together, they produced a private universe few people ever had access to. Hackman grew more meditative about life and death as he grew older. He was well aware that time was catching up with him, even though he never spoke out publicly about important medical concerns. He mentioned his death anxiety in some of his last interviews. Though he didn't dwell on it, he admitted that it always lurked in the rear of his consciousness. He knew his time would come finally after friends and colleagues passed away. Leaving his wife behind worried him one of the most. He was aware that her age difference meant she might outlive him. He wanted to see to it she wouldn't be left alone and that she was taken care of. Even with these worries, Hackman hardly spoke candidly about death. He simply wanted to savor the time he had left. He was not interested in emphasizing the unavoidable. He kept active, authored books, and spent his days away from Hollywood, free from the demands of the business. Now, though, many questions remain. Given his unexpected death along with his wife, was he feeling the end was almost here? Was he getting ready for it any way he chose? Hackman clearly lived life on his own terms, right until the very end. Hollywood mourns a legend. When word got out that Gene Hackman had died, it shook Hollywood. People from all over the movie business paid tribute to him, from famous directors to younger actors who grew up watching his movies. Clint Eastwood, who directed Hackman in Unforgotten, called him one of the greatest actors of all time, and praised his ability to give every role his full devotion. Frank Capra called him a master of his craft, always in control of the screen while they were working on the conversation. Even actors from the younger generation showed respect. Hackman was named as an influence on actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, and Christian Bale. Bryan Cranston, who is famous for Breaking Bad, said that he watched Hackman's performances to improve the way he acts. On social media sites, Hackman fans shared their favorite moments with the actor. Many people said that his roles in movies made them love movies more, so clips from The French Connection, Hoosiers, and Unforgotten became popular. Without a doubt, he was one of the best actors in Hollywood. The important question that kept coming up was how Hollywood would honor Gene Hackman. Even though there's been no public announcement about a memorial yet, rumors are spreading. Some say there might be a memorial event in Hollywood for his best movies. People who know him well think that his family will choose a private ceremony to honor his need to remain anonymous. Then one starts to think about his estate. Hackman was living a quiet life in New Mexico, away from the news. People are now interested in his unpublished works. Because he loved writing so much, if he left behind unfinished projects, they could give us one last look into his creative mind. While questions remain about his passing, Hackman's impact on film is undeniable. But will his final chapter ever be clear? Will we ever know what really happened? Despite no signs of foul play, the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa remain a mystery. The toxicology reports and carbon monoxide tests could provide answers, but until then, speculation continues. Authorities found no external injuries, no evidence of a break-in, and no struggle. Yet both Hackman and his wife were found in separate rooms, their deaths going unnoticed for days. Could it have been a medical emergency that left one unable to call for help? Could a quiet, undiagnosed health condition have taken them both? Or was it something environmental, like carbon monoxide poisoning? For now, these are only questions. Until the final reports are released, the truth remains unknown. Gene Hackman's passing is another reminder of how many of Hollywood's biggest icons have faded from public view. Unlike today's stars, Hackman never chased fame. When he left Hollywood, he stayed gone. Now more aging legends are following that path, choosing privacy over the pressures of the industry. Many actors struggle with aging in a business that glorifies youth. Even those who retire quietly still face the challenges of growing old in the public eye. Hackman's life in seclusion shows the reality of fame after the cameras stop rolling. His passing also raises concerns about the well-being of other reclusive Hollywood greats. How many others are living in near isolation, away from family and industry support? Despite the lingering mystery, one thing is certain: Hackman's impact on cinema will never fade. His performances in The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Conversation shaped the way crime dramas and thrillers are made. His natural, gritty acting style influenced an entire generation. Beyond awards and accolades, Hackman represented a different kind of Hollywood star, one who let his work speak for itself. He didn't chase headlines. He didn't seek attention. He simply delivered unforgettable performances. While questions about his death remain, they do not define him. His true story is told through his work, films that will continue to inspire for generations to come. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.